broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Lachey's Bar After Show here at AfterBuzz TV for episode 2. I am not joined by Jen Golden today or Lauren Leonelli. Unfortunately, they couldn't be part of this episode's After Show, but they will be joining the panel shortly, soon, in upcoming episodes. So you have me, Phil Svitek, the host for tonight. If you haven't already subscribed over at YouTube or iTunes or SoundCloud, as this it's a fairly new show, obviously only episode 2. Take the opportunity to subscribe. That way you get all the episodes right when they come out, and they're completely free to you guys. And if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. Feel free to get caught up on episode 1, where Jen Golden and I recap that episode. So tonight, episode 2. It's basically, we got 2 storylines overall. We got the beer off, and then we got fishing with Dad, which I thought was great last time. We got Mom in there. This time we're getting Dad. So, we kind of round off the full Lachey's family dynamic, and that was really cool to see. And we also got the kids as they practice, Drew's kids, where they got to practice fly fishing, so that was good to see. So let's kind of start with the Dad. To an extent, they had Dad come in and look at the bar, which I liked. They had a good dynamic. They were telling him where everything was going to be and how he said, assisted living, this is what it really should be, which is great. That revelation of, they're not just building a bar for themselves, and the decision they made last week to name it Lachey's Bar, obviously that carries more weight than just than the success of them. Obviously, with 98 Degrees, the name has a lot of weight for them personally. But one of the things that I like finding out as the show kind of progresses, and again, we're only in episode 2, but it just keeps unfolding, is that it extends beyond just them as a family, so the Lacheys, but then also it really, learning about Cincinnati, they really are very close, and even there are quarrels and things like that. The drama really is more so-called ball busting rather than anything else, not necessarily actual drama. And what's nice is that the drama that ensues is stuff dealing with the bar, which obviously is represented by the choosing of the beer and so on. So that was nice to see. Now, technically, I don't think this was the first time they've cracked open a beer, because I specifically remember last episode when they were kind of tearing things down, they cracked some beers. But if this is the inaugural beer at the bar, so be it. I'm sure it won't be the last time that they themselves have a beer before the bar is even fully opened. So, certainly, as Jen and I joked last time, research and development. So research and development is in full throttle this episode. Certainly, that continues. And what I like to, speaking of that, just in general, right, that sort of same mentality of just having fun and really bonding ultimately carried over in the fly fishing experience. They didn't mention where they really went. Maybe that's kind of their secret spots. They didn't want it getting out into the world. I don't know. Maybe it's not even known for fish. I don't know if they don't know that much, because obviously they don't necessarily care about the fish. They care more about just time spent together. And it was good to see, I don't know. I found it... I found it fun, maybe isn't the right word, but, where their dad wasn't really fly fishing with them as much. They were kind of... it's hard to describe their skill level at fly fishing. Yes, I understand they haven't done it in over 10 years, at least the boys, maybe the father has. And that's why he's on the sideline and just enjoying them struggling through this debacle. Maybe you could blame it on the beer, but overall, I would not call them good, or it's certainly not great, but probably not even good fly fishermen. The good news is, as I mentioned, they don't care, so it doesn't matter to them if they catch a fish or not. It's all good because they got to hang out. So I think they caught a buzz more than some fish, and that was good to see. And I forget, this is why I do wish Lauren and Jen were here, because they kind of know more of the full family dynamic. As I said, I am not a Lachey connoisseur, so I don't know all the history. I'm obviously a kid from the 90s. I know 98 Degrees. I know a little bit of the history. I know that obviously, the various other stuff, but not the specifics. So then, for me personally, that was great to see, but not too much beyond just that. There, for me, the real fun of the episode was the primary storyline, which is the beer off, and this was fun to see because it was educational, it was fun, and it kind of combined a lot of elements, and it also presented the drama side of it. And even though it was masked by them in a comedic way, at the end of the episode, when it is Drew kind of there alone and he can't get a hold of Nick, it presented the drama side where financial decisions have to be made, and they have to you got to move forward. And as he says, every time you get to make a decision, you get to check off a box that something's done. And so he's correct in that, and they've chosen to do a sports bar. So, as we know last episode, in order to be able to hit football season, they got to hit certain deadlines. It's not a rolling deadline. So, obviously you hope to launch with a bar at a certain amount in a certain period. But when it comes to a sports bar, it's very... And it depends around the sports, and so you want to, if you miss that window, well, you've missed out on a great launch. Now, obviously, you can still launch within that same year, but it's not as great, and so then the debate happens: do you wait till next year? Anyway, let's take a step back and start with the beer off. They're over at a brewery, and as they say, what I like the Harry Potter type references with the beard. I forget his name, but he was the head brewer, and talk about a place where you're allowed to drink. This is kind of this is again later in the episode, but when he's drinking the beer, and as he says, hair the dog after last night. At the end of the day, he is a brewer, and he must taste this beer, and so why not always just have a beer in your hand? I think this is quite a fascinating job, and that's why anytime I get to kind of explore a world that I'm unfamiliar with, it really does intrigue me. And as much as I talked last time how thanks to John Taffer, I know a lot of kind of about the bar science and bar industry. But at the end of the day, I don't necessarily know how to, a lot about the brewing process. And so, and by the way, as much as I do know about the bar industry, by no means am I an expert. I have not run a successful bar, but I have not run any bar. So just also wanted to point that out. In terms of the brewing, it seemed like a fun process. And as Nick and Drew do point out, you don't kind of think about these things when you do drink your own beer, but when you get to create the full craft and you see the hops going in and you're thinking about these various ingredients, which I found intriguing. So, I don't know how they chose the ingredients that they chose. One chose an ale. He kept calling it an ale. It was an IPA. It was an IPA, but instead of calling it necessarily an IPA, he kept referring it to more of an ale. And again, there's a slight difference in that. Nick went with a darker beer, focusing on kind of spices and peppers, whereas Drew and his lighter beer was kind of a lemon zesty thing. And again, I don't know. It's one of those things. I don't know. The consultation that I would have loved to see, the amount of consultation, what kind of went into the thought of, I want to add peppers versus I want to add lemon zest, because it's one of those that, brewing takes a certain amount of time. And so if you just kind of throw in these various ingredients, you're not going to know how it tastes. So at Aaron's taste off, I kept cringing because the worst feeling in the world would be when you taste your own beer and you're all excited about it, in your mind it tastes a certain way, and then when you taste it, you're like, ooh, what is this? I was nervous for that. Again, I have not tried either beer, but it would have been interesting, to see. Luckily, as we're told, I'm getting a sign from Roxy Stryer, one of our show producers, and it sounds, what is it? Put it up again. When did you become a beer expert? I did not become a beer expert. This is what I'm telling you, the fans. I am not a beer expert. Roxy, you're a beer expert. Hop on out if you want. Roxy has not seen the episode, so if she decides to come out here, it's strictly on her basis of being a beer expert, not necessarily an expert on the show. But here she is. She's gonna go on the couch, I guess. I was gonna roll her up a seat here, but so be it. She's grabbing her little headset. And she's gonna hopefully wow us with her beer knowledge. So Roxy Stryer, she puts on the headphones.
So hello, am I live? Am I hot?
I think I can hear you.
Oh really? I'm not.
Hopefully, maybe I don't know if it's being picked up by my mic specifically. But there we go.
I'm not a beer expert per se, but I'm a beer drinker. And I was just very impressed with the way you were talking, Phil. I thought that was awesome. That's why I said it wasn't like sarcastic. When you become a beer expert, it was like, you go, Phil. You could totally be. It could be Svitek's bar next.
Well, but one of the things that I was most intrigued about, again, because there's that process, and I know one of our other hosts, John Quasto, who Roxy does a show called DC Movie News on our movie network called Popcorn Talks.
Good plug.
Definitely check that out.
Good plug.
He does his own beer, but it's always, when you create that, it is an experiment. It could work out, it could not, and they didn't get into the history of Nick and Drew's kind of beer-making habits. Maybe they've made beer in the past. I'd love to know. So how do you kind of, just check off ingredients? And I always equate it to, it's one of those things like, you guys will laugh, but there's an episode of Hey Arnold where they wanted to make the coolest bike ever, and then so they put streamers, cards, this and that, and it looked like a cool bar, but then when they rode the bike, you couldn't ride the bike because inevitably they made the bike not be a bike. And so the point is, when you add too much ingredients, when does the beer not become a beer because you've added too much and it's like, ew?
Or is the point, move it, football head? No, but to that point, it's really smart and interesting. Again, the beer expert, clearly. Johnny has amazing different stuff, but sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I want to try that. It will be like pecan, apple, sage, and barley peanut butter beer. And I'll be like, I don't know. I just name it a lot of stuff. But that's what it is. And people get really offended if you don't like their beer. So I understand why this could be a point of contention on the show. They want.
Let me ask you this. Has Johnny admitted to ever creating beer that he's not liked? Again, because like I said, you are experimenting, and by the way, just in general, there's so many beers, right? There's the IPAs, and that's why he kept calling it an ale, but there's the IPA is an Indian pale ale, so it's a little bit, stronger, not stronger, hoppier,
like zestier, yeah, hoppier.
Yeah. You got your lagers, but then there's different types of lagers. You got your dark, you got your stouts and whatever else. I mean, the list goes on and on. Pull up Nestrop and we can go through the list right now.
Yeah, you're a big Nestrop fan. I know you are. You're right. There's a lot of different flavors and whatnot. I think the point is we should definitely get the Lacheys in here to teach us a class so we can be experts and we can speak about this very fluidly.
Yes, and so let me ask you this. I thought it was a little unfair that they did have a taste-off, but the problem is that, while they're both Cincinnati boys and they've grown up here, Drew's obviously still, here on a day-to-day basis, whereas Nick, he comes in. And so when you invite your entire soccer team, Drew's soccer team, they're able to throw back a lot of Drew's beer, and therefore Nick doesn't necessarily have a fair shot at this.
Yeah, I mean, if you're inviting all your people, then that's not a fair tally. That's not fair at all. I'll go play for the other team for a little bit.
Okay, is it the ultimate diss when Drew's wife is not drinking Drew's beer and says, "I do not like my husband's beer"?
I'm telling you, I think that is a big low blow. People are they take their beer very personally, and if you tell your husband that you don't like his beer, it's almost worse than saying that he's not good in bed. Honestly, that's really rough. That's really rough.
There you go. Ironically, so Drew's kind of top of the world at that moment, but the thing that sucks, now he goes in, he has to get this beer, so you have to order a minimum of 120 kegs, and by the way, ironically, that's a small order at $160 each, so that comes out to, as they said, about $20,000. And it's one of those things like, okay, yeah, you won the taste off, but you're about to spend $20,000 on your beer. You open up this bar. If people don't like it, then, Nick kind of goes, we should have met with my beer.
Yeah. And, beer, you can't keep it in the keg for too long. Sometimes you have to toss all the beer if it's not selling quick enough. So that you could really be wasting a lot.
Yeah, so it's a risk. What do you call those situations when you like feel like you're top of the world, you've won, but it's really like a
Cloud 9?
No, but then you realize the weight of the world is now actually on your shoulders.
Like Catch-22.
I don't know. Maybe it's like I don't know. It's like when you've won. Let's say you've won the presidency, and you're like, oh man, gosh, that was a lot of hard work. Whew. And then you're like, oh, I have to actually do now work for 4 years.
Right. You in the immediacy, it seems like you won, but now the battle's actually about to begin.
Exactly.
I feel you.
Yeah. So ultimately, that's where we're left off. He writes the check for $20,000, and oh boy, let's hope this beer sells. I'm really pulling because that is a lot.
Do you know who could help sell this beer? The two drunk girls.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe they're out there on the street team.
Lauren, Jen, get on this. Start drinking as much beer as you can. The Lacheys need your help.
Hey, you know what? Again, we've teased it in last episode, but Lauren has been to the bar, and make no mistake, I'm sure she has sampled every drink. She does her homework.
I believe in her. I really do.
That's right. You need taste testers. Lauren and Jen, they're there.
We're going next.
We're going to Cincinnati.
Woo, woo.
All right. Well, thank you, Roxy, first off, for joining me. And
thank you, Phil, for becoming an expert in beer.
Thanks to the Lacheys, I became an expert in a 22-minute episode. I became an expert. Thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate it. As I said, Lauren and Jen, they'll be here in future episodes. But in the meantime, if you guys enjoyed what I had to say, I truly appreciate it. It's a pleasure kind of getting to talk about the show. If you listen to the first episode, Lauren actually knows Vanessa and Nick. She works with them a lot. Then through the grapevine, obviously, Jen knows Nick and Vanessa, and they met multiple times. I've had the pleasure of meeting them, but in the three tiers that I mentioned, I know them least. But what I do know is that they are wonderful, wonderful people. I've never met Drew. He seems like a wonderful human being. I really have nothing bad to say about these people. In fact, that's my only knock. Well, unfortunately, I never recommend something that I didn't try, so I cannot recommend the beer. But the asterisk is I haven't tried it yet.
Okay.
So, all right, we'll see you next episode 3 of Lachey's Bar. I'm still confused because on the thing it says Lachey's Raising the Bar, which is a great title. So is the show just actually called It is just called Lachey's Bar, but the interstitial keeps saying Lachey's Raising the Bar, which is a great title. Don't get me wrong. Just causes some confusion. Anyway, follow us here at AfterBuzz TV, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Go to iTunes, rate, comment, subscribe. Go to YouTube, leave a comment, say how much you love Phil and everything going on there. Make sure you guys reach out to the two drunk girls, Lauren Leonelli and Jen the Jew, and we love you guys, and thank you for tuning in.
And DC movie news for Johnny's Beer. We'll see you here next time. Thank you.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.